Hello, there's a man named Lawrence with MSNBC involved with using passions and emotions dishonestly with prosecutors and judges who have been collusion slash S with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases. At the same time, with the difference of their roles with that or them, they're planting sequence shifts at news at the same time. Connecticut's Channel 3 News and sources of and next to them. And the same with Fox Connecticut News and WTNH. They have been planting evidences with people tied to my name and backgrounds and with stories at corners of streets and next to schools with people involved with predicate acts with them. Interbranch refusing to identify themselves legitimately because they already painted themselves in corners on a mass scale. They won't allow anyone to honestly address how they are victims slash hyper victims employed as collusions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, per what forgiveness is important for. They're changing and faking what people say on a mass scale. They have been replacing what's actually digitally recorded. The FBI, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants, and neighbors of them, like neighbors of Dominic LaPriada, are with him and the family members of them of a John LaConch. I walked by his daughter one time with people recorded involved with home break-ins in my area and planting evidences with police, and I recorded that, including them in the background needing to pretend I know Don LaConch. I never had a word of conversation with Don LaConch. I only know her recorded involved with predicate acts with people at each of the campuses I went to and next to them involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with her and her father, involved with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and their other co-defendants, and their lawyer, Robert Chevrolet, and a John Famiano, a whole bunch of people tied to his lawyers' spots next to his lawyers' offices, like the Harriet Beecher Stowe Mark Twain House, also involved with them, with the family members of principals and of deans of campuses, where that was his exploited intercities, where and how that shows evidential things. See, there is hyper evidential. We're going to have to use this word. So, for example, we have black people's rights of eyes, and that's hyper evidential with a whole bunch of different things. And it being and having been left out and replaced, as what nature communicates, comes also simultaneously the communications of James Madison. For example, the breaching method within the subject of James Madison's communications. That is left out and it is being and have been replaced, has been replaced, and rolls with his words, self-valued, leaving out what they declassified that with that, have men like this Lawrence. I believe it's a Mark. I don't know. That's Mark. Shout out to Martin Lawrence. That's a comedian. But there's a Lawrence with MSNBC who have prosecutors and judges and their family members. There's a Brian Silver, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by people involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with him at a Target in the Britain, West Hartford line. And there, that's not far from a body dumping spot. Involved with a whole bunch of people at next to the state corrections offices of Connecticut, who have roles with Washington, D.C., and with the World Trade Center, with World Trade Center predicate acts rules through other natures of organized crimes, and mass federal evidences racketeering worse than war crimes, while tactically delusions raw too, black people. So they have these voices, sickly distinctly, the differences between the Democrats or the Republicans at locations, areas, and states. There is a concentration of mayors, intercities of Connecticut, like ones with the name pretending to be about free speech on Facebook, with also the difference between Facebook criminally foreign influence with their family members involved, and the difference of them there or on their advertisement. They have a person who looks just like a Celeste Wells. I never had a class with her. There are people who put out her. She had roles with putting the yearbook with people with identity theft, fraud, slanders, with prosecutors and judges and their family members, Increasingly, people involved with child abusers, leaders, or kids years apart, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders. A whole bunch of people recorded, confessed them. In other words, put me and lie about what comes first. As people were involved with the sequence shifts at the World Trade Center, leading up to it, now and since. In that context and since. In the Ninth Circuit Court next to it too, involved from in the court, they changed the legal the timing of when papers had been delivered to the court, and then that was proven afterwards. And that, in other words, that led up to a part of a 2006 district court case with a whole bunch of people on both sides of that case, and both sides of the part that was in Manhattan, right next to the World Trade Center, right in the attack context right before it. A whole bunch of people at the World Trade Center next to it. I only know some of their names. And I know they have lawyers involved trying to make them act as a group. They have the difference between Saudi's roles with the attackers and America's roles with the attackers also being and having been used remotely criminally foreign influence. And we have means to discern this, but mandated law was as offensively forbid its proper defenses. And how this is denied and has been stayed denied is relative to predicate acts methods I recorded between and next to each of the campuses I went to since before I was born, and through my lifetime, through other people's lifetimes. So WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others. That's Connecticut's Channel 3 News. They have roles interstates with people involved with all kinds of justices rackets, all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes against elderly, veterans, kids, attaching them to fake ties and conversations with doctors, foreign and domestic, and God help the kids that did have communications with this Leahy family of medical people and people with the name Lombardo, increasingly from other areas involved with untimely death confessions from strangers on my street years apart, but time use / estimate roles. Same ones who had time use / estimate roles of body dumping spots and the persons of reported killers and the body dumping spots, like of a serial killer. Involved also with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso and confessions of people next to the state judicial branch offices influenced to make federal evidences crimes with them, and with the Kevin Dillon increasingly involved with judges from various natures of courts and prosecutors and their family members, Connecticut's District Court, Harper Courts, and the Britain Superior Court. They have roles with those spots reportedly of the serial killer's body dumping spot right near the Target building, involved with a Rick Cianfaglione, who's involved with a whole bunch of people I don't even know their names, that have been sticking fake things in databases, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me and others since I was a kid, with mayors involved in their family members, concentrated mayors from Wethersfield, because of the relative to how their roles with the state educational of the building and the names next to it involved with criminal enterprises and terrorists, time collusion / S with terrorists. Also, some of the victims had and their neighbors. Also, in the form of not responding. If I was trying to hurt them out, in other words, get them on paper, the interbranch that switched names and forged names. The Britain Superior Court has a whole bunch of people involved with the World Trade Center attack in Manhattan, and as the World Trade Center names evolved, and next to it, they have a former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and involved with a Dean Judd and his kid from Central Connecticut State University, involved also with intelligence families at UConn and various intercities campuses and intra-cities campuses that are connected to you in ways that are known but also unknown, even by themselves. In other words, that's why. But to discern this, they have predicate acts methods of pretending not to realize they're offensively forbidding people mandated law and defenses of their roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders against ourselves. They have roles with treatments of like home identity theft, home title fraud, where they have collusions of readings of statutes and precedents that left out their roles with criminal enterprises, with extortion, with identity theft, fraud, slanders, with mass data racketeering, worse than war crimes. There is not no so through administrations there are recorded. These are roles with Wethersfield town offices. The Wethersfield Community Center is increasingly involved with people with fire departments, with Russians and Americans that are demonstrating that that they probably have nuclear reasons that they're why they're there together, overtly and insidiously refusing me to get a response with all the people increasingly like this Leahy family who faked conversations with me, forged the whole faked conversations with me through the mail to my mother, and I could only get her to respond to. No one will respond to me. That's also communications, because these are people that attach me to fake communications with my family since I was a kid. So I'm still over here asking you for a response from Harvard Hospital. The first of 3 times they forced me for mental evaluation. 2 times they have doctors and judges and their family members with overt criminal enterprises and private ones involved with rape threats on digital crime methods, still with the FBI, and the Facebook page of Harvard Hospital, involved with the principal upskirt nature, and more people with retired police chiefs from Wethersfield, a police chief Cintron, is involved with the Mazzucato Bakery, where they are now and where they used to be, and with other names of other businesses and things and houses along Franklin Avenue, Wethersfield Avenue, and at 3 spots at the Berlin Turnpike. They have people went out of their way to have others record things and to communicate other than they pretend, because they're putting fake motivations, their roles with a whole bunch of different countries at the same time. Increasingly, these are people involved with superior court judges and probate court judges, concentrated though with the ones from the district court, involved with the Cololo House and the Smith House, with wire crime acts and methods with Wethersfield police phones, where they fake transcripts with other departments and the other police forms. Whiting Forensics is increasingly involved with a Bob Chase, with a Phil Cololo, and they said the name Christine is involved, and they have a guy who might have been on intelligence or no. They have a guy who or a patient, in other words, who brought up the name. He said that he's close with the family of former Mayor Gold. I had no communications, but I didn't respond to him. In other words, because I already knew that was recorded. His roles, the Gold family has roles with people named Thomas Perone, Anna Perone, and a Thomas Dillon. Anna Dillon, and then her switching it with the name Annie too. It's name switching, inter branches involved too, and sequence shifting. These are people from the city's courts of Connecticut and campuses, including fire and medical campuses. Increasingly, people tied to a former Mayor Gold are involved with identity thefts and frauds, and his daughter stuck some fake things in a database and lied about why, she was screaming names at me by timing when I was going to be walking the hallway. So I called her name or whatever like that, and not a religious one. That was in 6th grade, because it brought in a Chet Casper's names, who I never even saw in my grammar school. And she was involved with confession. They have some roles with body dumping spots, overt criminal enterprises, and various natures of federal criminals who were involved with the conversations with the little kids and their parents and their doctors and the educators, putting fake things in databases. In other words, and they'll tell you this because it came from it had something to do with, they told me it was from Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, has intelligence through time, involved with intelligence families that used to live near me, that made fake exceptions that know me, and ones I don't know at all, that just pretend because they're next to me, they pretend that they had their roles with the intelligence, pretend that I was in fake locations with them, faked and changed communications with them. Ask people, in other words, and they're lying about why I bring up their names. They brought them up. All exceptions too, they use criminally foreign influence. I noted that. In other words, it's recorded they've been using exceptions in exception nature, consciously, tactically ulterior from how nature does. And because the breaching method showed them they have to hide that. They should, in other words, there are people with the name Perone and their neighbors. I don't even know them. They'll tell you that. but they'll tell you other than repeating things with them. Also with the Kerr family, a Perone family and a Kerr family, and people tied to them with my neighbors have predicate acts at the corner of with judges and prosecutors and various natures of politicians at the corner of the South Street Highway and Town Line Drive, and with people tied to unmarked police forms, apparently unmarked intelligence, even if that's not an intelligence person who is Latino themed, tied to a Mike Pandolf. I know that conversation with my life. He knows about me. Other people repeat things and demonstrate things from a distance, and I did it about me to make it look like we know each other. They have roles also with some Mendez police who put me in fake conversations with the older one at the Wethersfield police station, as his collusions with Eric Mendez, with people with the name DeMora, with the FBI, and Thaddeus Skowalski, next to Fox Connecticut News. Also with people with the name Kerr. Also with people with the name Faenza and Allegra and Casper and C.M. Faglione with a Brian Silver prosecutor, prosecutors tied to him, judges and their family members involved with predicate acts, also with the kids' prisons and the adult prisons, all kinds of medical corruption, identity theft frauds with them. They have increasingly a Subby Bejerio. I only know him. He sought me out for federal evidences crimes and to fake ties to me, fake natures of ties to me, confessions. He knows I never tried to seek him out. All exceptions, I tried to get the interbranch on paper. I can't get him on paper. He has rolls of people on my street with predicate acts, and collusions with all sides of criminal and civil cases, names involved from other areas that came and relative things. And it shows there's a recorded show and trying to put everyone to fake ties, fake natures of ties to everyone around them. And they're attaching everyone's family members to fake communications with themselves since they're kids. It has something to do with increasingly with the mayors. So this guy named Lawrence with MSNBC, they have prosecutors and judges involved with federal evidences rackets and readings of statutes, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, and needing to pretend other because they are shown that that's why they're shown they're being and haven't been used remotely. It's how they have the audacity to use passions and emotions and pretend they can't discern why and how what nature communicates with black people's whites of eyes is left out, and the breaching methods reassignment of that is left out and blamed on other things other themselves. They have self-bodied roles being haven't been used remotely with the uses of what our founder said, leaving out what they declassified about that. Again, leaving out what nature itself does. Black pupils, please get MSNBC, do what's right, repent. Get them on paper, one name and sequence with the interbranch name switching and forging. Get them on paper. Wethersfield Police, let's go, let's go. Get me off the faked and changed transcripts with them, with totally faked transcripts with them as a kid, now as an adult at the Wethersfield Police Station, and with the phone transcripts, totally fake, and digital too. They changed digital evidences interagencies that recorded with this when they cover up, pretend their integrity. Then when they make examples. They're being used to sense and fish by the breaching method that does this at countries A through Z, keeping other things others ourselves. Blame where the scientific value of the breaching method is an answer, where it is being and haven't been replaced. That comes with other demonstrations and answers, revelations, black people. In other words, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a journalist. Journalists and their family members are also increasingly next to Fox Connecticut News, even other natures of journalists, like ones tied to the name Perone, are increasingly involved with all kinds of, they're already painted themselves with all kinds of natures of investigations, investigators, their family members, their neighbors, use remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Something to do with increasingly people tied to, their people who had conversations with teachers about me behind my back. And like, what is his name? Mr. Hagenbar, for example. In other words, Mr. Hagenbar is involved with people who have conversations with leaders of kids and their kids, and criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, roles, and with identities of relativity, with inclusions with the principal child abuser they forced. And so they have digital crimes with these people. John Mino has sequence shifts and confessions tied to this guy too, and people involved with people involved a whole bunch of different ways. The differences of their natures of conjunctions to a Perone family too, like with the roles with corners of streets, a Kerr family too, not just that corner with the Kerr and Perone, the Town Line Drive and Southstein Highway. Also with Tony DeMauro, a Joe DeMauro, a Ray Kalal, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have federal evidences crimes with people involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and interbranch judges and prosecutors putting fake things in news at the same time there, as their rules with. They said that they have federal evidences crimes with people at the corner of the corners of Elm Streets and Weathersfield and Rocky Hill, involved with a whole bunch of people from Weathersfield, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders with my neighbors named Kalal and Smith. And then they're trying to make it look like it's personal. I asked to do this on paper privately. In other words, they brought this up too. The police forging and switching names with the courts too, refusing to get on paper since I was a kid. They have crime methods against the people on a mass scale where they put charges with no writing. Black people.